Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. What a wonderful day so far. It's such a pleasure. So many this close friends and family gathered here today to celebrate this wonderful occasion. The fact that myself and James are standing here now, it means we've arrived at that part of the celebration where the best man gets to make his speech. Unfortunately for you, and especially so for the crew, Tommy was never particularly good at having to make some decisions. So you might want to strap in, grab yourselves a glass of wine, because this could take a while. No need to worry too much though. Best man speeches 1 to 6 should be over by the time your taxis arrive this evening. Now, as I'm sure some of you can attest, being a best man at a wedding is rather like being a dead body at a funeral. Everyone expects you to be there, but people start freaking out if you say too much. So relax, mate. We're going to do our best to beat this PG, which coincidentally is where our story begins. James and I had known the Grews since primary school, so we feel it's our duty, our responsibility to give you a small insight, a little glimpse, if you will, into the weird and wonderful mind of Mr. Thomas Eakins, and do our utmost to explain how little Tommy turned into the man he is today.
Proud son of a Geordie father and a Derbyshire mother, Tom has always had northern blood coursing through his veins. However, did you know, despite his claims to the contrary, particularly amongst his university friends, he was actually born and raised in the small Kentish town of Hawkley Green, a mere 25 miles south of London, or 312 miles south of the Toon. Growing up, little Tommy was raised on a strict Geordie diet of sausage sandwiches and mature cheddar cheese. It's hard to believe a somewhat festive child has flowered into the tall, strapping lads that's before you today. He was lucky enough to share his childhood with his two wonderful sisters, Laura and Catherine. And they say growing up with a sister is meant to make you kinder and more compassionate and ultimately better at talking to women. But unfortunately for Tony, Tom never got the memo.
But before long, little Tommy was ready for primary school, and to be fair, that's where James and I first had him. They say good things come in threes, and that's exactly how we saw our friendship. Like the three amigos, the three musketeers. Three wise me. I'm pretty sure our teachers called us something else entirely there. Now, believe it or not, in the classroom, little Tommy was actually rather intelligent. He had his peers, and to this day, had this weird photographic-like memory. Rather like Dustin Hoffman's Rainer. And to be fair, the similarities don't stop there. For example, he was also very good at maths, exceptionally quick at mental arithmetic, and he was greedy for. He wasn't very accurate, he was very fast. As for his memory, unlike Rain Man, soon became apparent that this gift extended almost exclusively to recounting on Simpsons quotes and useless WWF wrestling trivia.
Outside of the classroom, he engaged in all the trends one would expect of a child growing up in the 90s, and some that you wouldn't. Beanie Babies, Tamagotchis, Furbies, Pokemon, Warhammer. Hard to believe that little Tommy was part of the cool crew. However, as he got older, he turned his attention away from soft toys and cuddly characters and towards video games. And to be fair, he was very good at FIFA. We don't know exactly when the fascination with gaming started, but if we had to guess, it was probably shortly after he overheard his dad saying, "The secret to women is knowing what buttons to press." After that, he never saw him without a PlayStation controller in his hand.
Now we can't talk about hobbies without referencing the groom's lifelong obsession with all things football. Whether it be watching his beloved Newcastle United play on the TV or playing for the local school team, little Tommy wasn't hooked on football from the very first moment his father forced the black and white jersey over his head as a small child. Fortunately though for the groom, I don't think his mother Julie had much say in that one. Lots of Noah likes about it. On the football pitch, little Tommy was actually rather talented and had a wonderful effort.
Wasn't he the only left from school?
Okay, fine, yeah, true, but he was still a record holder at junior division, isn't it?
Yes, for most red cards in one season.
Okay, fine. What about his they're all like aggression called winning the ball back? You're going to give me those?
Yeah, but it helps when you're to school referee.
True. Regardless, little Tommy soon made that starting left back position his own.
Looking back, some of those early years of primary school were amongst the happiest of our lives, but as they say, all good things must come to an end. And we're not sure what was the straw that broke the camel's back, but after 3 years together, the teachers took the strategic decision to split us into 3 separate classes. You see, us and the teachers just never really got along. Whilst it's true, the three of us weren't exactly easy students, there are still levels in every sport. And in the competition of most challenging student, Danny and I were always vying for second place. And little Tommy is a leader with that. Now, I know it's hard to believe, but the polite man sitting here today was, in fact, a fucking nightmare in store. And actually, that's not entirely. He wasn't a bad child, he was just gifted in disruptive behaviours. Not many people complain to be both the school comedian and the class scallywag, but little Tommy was never one for playing by the rules. He could be so troublesome that being his friend came with its own challenges, and Danny and I were often found guilty just by association, or at least that's what we told our parents. Thanks for taking one for the team, mate.
If you needed any additional evidence as to how little faith his teachers placed in him at school, you need look no further than the start of our 5 year together. With the school bestowing its customary responsibilities among the Year 8 students, James, don't ask me how, but somehow managed to acquire the impressive honour of being named headmaster's prefect. Meanwhile, I was grateful enough to accept some other lowly distinction with vague responsibilities. However, with honours clearly in short supply, little Tommy was gifted the divine responsibility of being named our school's chief champion. Or to use its unofficial denomination, pet bell ringer. Now, looking at you all now, I know exactly what you're thinking. I didn't realise Tommy was so religious. And the truth is he wasn't. But he likes to be involved, bless him. Not to mention the added bonus of helping the school priest to ring his bell every Thursday. Speaking of being up and down like a fiddler's elbow, let's spare a thought for the groom's poor mother, Jude, who often bore the brunt of her son's bad behaviour and was regularly called into the headmaster's office to explain, for example, why her son was caught chasing off BF4 girls with his cats around his own group.
Which brings us nicely along to another peculiar insight into the mind of little Tommy, and a fitting story with which to end. You see, as a child, Tom possessed what can only be described as a strange confidence in his growing body, and an unconventional curiosity for nudism. He was never shy to strip down at any possible opportunity, and once displayed his bare ass for an entire women's water polo team, completely unprovoked. We don't know how this unusual fascination came to be, but conspiracy theories have long since pointed towards his childhood love of watching wrestling stars prance around in tight spandex. Despite some of the comments in his school reports, Tom was actually very astute. He would leverage his passion for watching wrestling to something much more interesting. His challenge was that his favourite show, WWF, being an American sport, was aired long after his bedtime. However, never one to miss out on an opportunity, he would innocently ask his parents to record it on the VCR, which they lovingly did every week. Unbeknownst to them, his favourite show was immediately followed by a 10-minute preview of what was, in fact, his actual favourite show, Midnight Blue, one of the raunchiest adult shows in its kind. Young boys, you can only imagine how impressed we were, but Tom had convinced the parents into unwittingly supplying weekly helpings of softcore pornography to satisfy not only his urges, but with his mates as well.
Alas, we've now approached the end of this chapter of the girl's life, and we all had the pleasure of handing over to Jack and Sal, met teenage Tommy at prestigious secondary school Keys, Rochester. Jimmy? Before we do, we'd just like to express our admiration for the beautiful bride. Tony, we all know you are a wonderful, kind woman, and you just offered up bestie. Unbelievable, don't always get what you say. But, in all seriousness, the love and support that the two of you share is genuinely inspiring, and we can be more excited to the boat as we venture into the future together. Tony, you haven't simply captured Tom's heart, but you've also done an integral part of your lives, and we can be more excited to officially roll the East Bank. So everyone, please, and not the last time this evening, raise your glasses to the incredible couple. Here's for a lifetime of happiness, laughter, and love. Bye, everyone.
Thank you very much. speech because you had to lead in.
Speeches are always done. This one will only be about 25 minutes.
But this approaching your birthday, wedding anniversary, so that's a real milestone. So I'm Garrick, this is Sam and Rio. I'm sure everyone's really excited to hear speeches 3 and 4, 6 all about Thomas, so we best get cracking. Anyone who knows Tommy will be familiar with his love of football. Every birthday he'd look forward to opening the latest kiss. He loved nothing more than to play for his local team and kick a field goal or score a touchdown in the dying moments of the fourth quarter.
What? I think what Jack means to say is that my friend Tommy loved going to see the Magpies play. Every weekend he'd go with his dad to see them at St James's Park. They'd take their binoculars and wait in eager anticipation to see the baby chicks chirp as they were fed worms by their mother.
Oh god, I think that fudged speechwriter we hired might have got a bit confused. Let's see what else is in here. I'm sure it'll be plain sailing. Tommy's a big lover of TV comedies. I think I've got something about that in here. He's a huge purchase fan. He likes it best when it's cooked with banana shallots and a burger sauce. Does that sound right to you? Peep show. Says here Tommy's a peep show enthusiast. In fact, he whiled away many hours in those booths and our friend James's stag do in Amsterdam last night. How did they know that?
Skipping. Tommy is a keen skipper. He knows double unders, side to sides, and numerous other rope skills that will be really useful later tonight when he's...
Clubbing! Tommy's always loved clubbing. Every Saturday night he'd dress up sharp and have a few drinks before heading down to the quayside in Newcastle to hunt for some baby seals.
Jim's. Definitely had something in here about Jim. Yes, here it is. Having a great physique and keeping fit has always been really important to Tommy. And at play, when he was younger, he always had a huge crush on that famous marathon run, I think quirky 1970s Top of the Pops presenter, Jim.
Okay, I think we better wrap that up there. Obviously the speech hasn't gone quite to plan. Unfortunately, wrote a few heartfelt words in case the speech writing service wasn't up to scratch. So I'll hand over to Sam to share these thoughts.
So both Jack and I really wanted to say what an amazing couple you are. So Tony, we couldn't have wished for Tommy to have met a more kind-hearted, intelligent, beautiful and patient partner. He has found the perfect partner. Well, and to Tommy, we just wanted to say what an amazing friend you've been to both of us. You've known us for so many years and been there for us during the great times and the difficult times. But you've always been a kind, compassionate, loyal friend who has an amazing sense of humour, aided by that crazy photographic memory of yours. It's always been fun having an on-demand Hue and YouTube player whenever we need you are. And honestly, guys, all jokes aside, you're a great couple, and we know you'll have many happy years together. Again, sorry about the budget speech and the mistakes.
But just one more thing. The speech writing service wasn't all bad, as it did actually come with some free gifts. Tommy and I, we know you moved house recently and might be looking for some pictures to hang on the wall. So now you'll always have these to remind you of those fond memories of playing football. Those great nights out clubbing in Newcastle. And those heady days going to watch the Magpies with Michael. Sorry, Michael. invited here to propose a toast to the lovely bride and groom, Mr. and Mrs. Higgins.
You fart. Hey, Sam.
Now, the new version then.
I know you're thinking, one more speech. One more speech.
One more. All right then, Baron. The idea of the one. Afternoons. Joke is our afternoon. It's definitely evening. I am the famed Adam.
And I'm getting quite tired, so
We met Tommy when he made his pilgrimage to Newcastle in the noughties. And in this chapter of speeches, we want to belatedly inform Tyranny of Tommy's credentials as a husband.
segments blessings the following. Something mentioned already is life, financial, savviness,
Cookery.
self-care,
Relationships. I, Adam, was first of the two of us to encounter Tommy. Tommy then, hard to believe, it was a man of simple pleasures, referring to Georgies as Georgies. Amongst our fellow freshers, or sharing drinks we brought to pre-drinks, Tommy kindly offered a crate of Strongbows to each person sat in a new circle of melons. However, Tommy knew costs must be kept to a minimum, so in actual fact, the Strongbows weren't Tommy's, but mine. I was in awe of Tommy's gusto to coin such a blatant act of cider theft. Some would have cut ties, but I saw a man who knew how to budget. And such skills would undoubtedly be of use during the ongoing cost of cider crisis at present.
Years on, upon a return to living in Newcastle, Tommy's financial maturity blossomed. When furnishing an unfurnished house with the two of us at a local charity shop, Tommy took the wise decision to opt out of contributing to a kitchen table. I'll just sit on the floor. For a week, the two of us sat at the table enjoying all the table's drinks line, while Tommy built on a beaver, spilling his soup on himself and laughing at the escapades of Cuban Webster on Coronation Street. Over time, we finally committed Tommy to use the tip. A wry smile appeared on his face. Another saving maid. One day, you will be serving Brittany Foliker, Reshiki bread in Croatia. Now, some of these tales might lead you to think we're saying that Tommy was tight, but that is not the case.
A man who won't pay towards taxi fares, minesweeps large glasses of red wine, won't buy new tracksuit bottoms even though there's a massive hole in the back, refuses to pay towards household drink, food or interiors, or a man who buys half-eaten beef footies for £1 from an intimidating man from Walsem is not tight.
This dietary is shabby, but quasi quality. Even sure junior starting years, he's budgeting for a future with a beautiful licensed toy.
However, However, the modern man, he can't just be one thing. And a modern man must know how to behave in the kitchen and care for the bone.
Eventually, Adam and myself left Newcastle to pursue the normal things of life, like houses without bimbas. Tommy was a last care at the Walton Boy Club in the Northeast. It was then he led the Valley of Bullpen. However, Tommy's residence at this place was under attack from a rat infestation.
We were all shocked.
How could this be?
Some said it was the piles of unwashed pants in the shared kitchen.
Others said it was the open pots of dolmio in the shared kitchen.
Some said it had spilled vodka on the floor in the shared kitchen.
Others said it was leaving the door open as time squares into closes in the shared kitchen.
We may never know how Roger, Reggie, Rupert, and Ronnie Rat entered and made residence in Tommy's final northeast town.
But it appears Reggie, Rupert and Ronnie were more welcome with the landlord than Tommy, who then brought forward the end of tenancy.
Now, you can't just maintain a clean home to be a husband in 2023.
You need to know good food. When you see it, they'd be proud of the kitchen.
So, Tommy's skills in the kitchen, he is a man who makes the famed lemon chicken, which no one has ever tasted. Once, when Tommy visited Rotherham, that's where I'm from, after an evening minesweeping, Tommy placed the lovingly made frozen pizza in the oven of the kitchen of my family home. Tommy slunk away while it cooked, awaiting the delicious margaritas to come. At around 3:30 a.m., alarms rung and smoke billowed around the house. My mother sprang to find a scene reminiscent of the Reichstag fire. With the smoke, or all she could find, a young Thomas Higgins laid across her newly furnished sofa in snug white boxes, revealing a larger than small portion of his buttocks. Tommy learned a valuable lesson. Home cooking begins on a Sunday when it might come in yours.
And as we learned in 23.3, you can't look up to others if you are just get rid of them.
Tommy has long understood this venture of self-care.
As you see Tommy today, he's a well-oiled machine.
And if we return to Tommy's time at university in year one, the period of making an impression to new friends, academics and more,
As evident, Tommy and his friends sometimes went out drinking. On one occasion, it was the night before a 9 a.m. lecture, an unmissable lecture to pass the first year.
I waited for Tommy like a loyal steed outside the Claude Gibb residence to gain some much-needed fresh air.
Time was ticking.
Tommy didn't show.
8:52,
8:53,
8:54.
8:55.
Then Tommy appeared.
Brown leather shoes, check.
Ice blue jean, check.
T-shirt that was slightly too tight, check.
A massive X painted on his face in permanent marker.
I failed. This was possibly the moment I really became Tommy's friend. As some of the other friends paced 5 to 25 steps ahead, I walked with Tommy, laughing at his appearance. Then I remembered the time, the lecture.
At that time, I was in the lecture room, and to few students later than expected, each greeted with a "You're late, Blair," and then came Adam, as handsome as you see him now, receiving a glare. Then Tommy, or at this point, applause entering a lecture theatre in view of myself and 100 or so other students, desperate to make the right impression.
As I entered, I felt the Glaswegian glare. I heard the snippy laughter, and I knew I'd crossed the line. I was a Tommy Higgins guy. He was my man, and one day I would be one of 6 lads speaking about his character.
So, Tommy learned the need for self-care. Prior to leaving the home, to present yourself how you want the world to see. But most importantly, you build a relationship and a trust.
However, this was never going to be enough. Tommy was looking for a relationship, something real, look.
Relationships in Tommy's time were built on the 30. His longest loves, that of his mother, his father's Lily, his sister, and the sisters and Newcastle United Football Club were stronger than ever.
He has borne many strong relationships, and he clearly had something.
He even managed to befriend his Levickslide University lecturer, Don, prior to receiving an unusually high grade in his dissertation.
Just sat at the other pub, actually.
Let's go.
Yeah. Very generous marking policy. We're both teachers. Yeah. Anyway, but what Tommy wanted more than anything was a partner.
Firstly, Tommy spent time acquiring what he called the street in a Newcastle nightclub called Derby.
In addition to this, he would perform in dance-offs to allure the opposite sex.
But as the years passed and after completing the Geordie edition of Tinder without much luck, Tommy moved back down south. He was looking for love. He was looking for another half, but he found so much more in Tommy.
Kind, hairy, considerate.
And I'm not going to do the classic first man joke where I asked Tony to read this because I can't read the handwriting. Because Tony emailed us to you. It's extremely obvious.
The internet.
Good thing is that as you know, Tommy is a genuine one-up, and we're all immeasurably and forever fortunate today's life. With Tony, he is truly the party and heavenly.
To put it simply, Tony gets Tommy. She embraces everything he is and warmly encourages him to be everything he can be.
Likewise, we know Tommy will continue to take every light pleasure to be the most incredible visit to Joe.
Cherish these days. Desserts are coming next. Sorry to report the milk's turned, but for one last time, please raise your empty glasses. For Tony and Tommy.
Okay, so now we use Tommy's will print. You are